Welcome to First Mover, your first global look at today's action in the Bitcoin, blockchain, and digital asset space. I'm your host, Christine Lee, and joining me are my co-host, CoinDesk Managing Editor of Global Capital Markets, Lawrence Lewiton, and Managing Director of International Content, Emily Parker. Good morning, Emily. Happy Friday, Lawrence.
Good morning.
Friday to you too.
Yeah, let's take a look at Bitcoin right now. The CoinDesk Bitcoin price XBX index is down about 1% for the past 24 hours, trading at 64,000 and change. The CoinDesk Ether price ETX index is at 4608, also down about just over 2%. The new DFX CoinDesk DeFi index is down 613 points. Which is about 4% over the past 24 hours. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the CoinDesk brand, trusted globally as a leader in crypto news, events, and data. All right, so what's with this retreat, Lawrence? A lot of profit taking happening.
I didn't say a lot. I mean, it's you have some profit taking. I think just you get these days when the markets don't really move. You look at the volume numbers. It's kind of like a little bit. Yesterday was a little bit more than it was in previous days, but it really wasn't anything
Taking
special.
A pause from all-time highs, just under $69,000. Also, we see that, based on this excitement in the crypto markets, some folks want to capitalize on the hurrah, including AMC, right, Emily?
Yeah, this is an interesting news flash. So basically, AMC Theaters is going to accept Bitcoin and Ethereum for, and I think actually maybe Litecoin as well, for online payments. And interestingly, they also said that they would be going to Dogecoin next. And this is just interesting because, one of the big criticisms of Dogecoin, well, one of the big criticisms of crypto in general is that there's no use case. And, if it is actually being used for payments at a major movie theater chain, I mean, if people are still going to the movies, that is, that's a pretty big step, I would say. It's notable. It's notable.
I mean, if you have fewer viewers and an audience. Go ahead.
It's about one Bitcoin per ticket and popcorn, I think is what the most recent price is.
That's kind of the key question, right? It's like, are people really going to spend their Bitcoin on a movie ticket, and also like, why would you do that as opposed to like a credit card, which probably is a lot simpler. So there are some questions, but again, as this narrative of like, okay, crypto can't be used for anything. I mean, this is definitely, a sign that it can be used for payment, but the question is why? Like, what is the advantage of using crypto for payment? The many other forms of payment we have here in the United States.
Well,
yeah, when I get my money across,
it's a great marketing effort to try to talk about crypto.
Yeah, when you get your money from across, across borders, the first thing you go is, "Gee, I got all this Bitcoin now from where I was before. Let me go see the latest Marvel Comics movie with it."
Sotheby's is also considering, this latest news item this morning. Sotheby's is considering, it will announce live bidding increments in Ether for Banksy's Trolley Hunters and Love is in the Air pieces. So it's definitely, being used as payments out there, especially with the auction houses, and they've realized how huge NFTs in the art market are.
See, that makes sense because you're spending money on a really high priced item, and in that case, you would consider you're trading an asset for an asset versus an asset for an experience. You're trading one high priced asset for another high priced asset that you think will appreciate in value. So, and they're trying to attract customers who maybe wouldn't have considered the market, the physical art market, or the NFT market, etc. They wouldn't have considered going to Sotheby's had it not been able to accept ETH. So that makes sense.
Well, I'll add to that not everyone is into Ethereum. Of course, Discord, the CEO there, tweeted out a screenshot of Discord kind of exploring ETH interoperability, ETH integration in Discord, and the community kind of lashed out at them saying, we don't want ETH, we don't want integration, citing a lot of criticism about Ethereum in terms of transaction fees, lag, and the climate change argument that it's consuming a lot of energy. So not everyone loves crypto. Anyway, let's move on to our sponsored guest.
The CoinDesk Spotlight is brought to you by Nexo, the place to earn on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and more.
All right, Chia Network is helping Costa Rica track climate change. The blockchain and smart transaction platform will supply technical services for the government's climate change metric system. Joining us now to discuss is Bram Cohen, co-founder of Chia Network. Hello, Bram. Welcome to the show. So tell me how this works. What is Chia Network tracking exactly?
Costa Rica and other countries have this as well, has carbon assets. They have carbon credits. They have trees and stuff that are sequestering carbon and possibly emissions that they're doing themselves. This is all information that you want to report in a way that's open and auditable so others can see what it is.
So Bram, your proof of space algorithm, consensus algorithm is a lot different than proof of work and proof of stake. How much energy does it require compared to those other two methods, and how does it relate to what you're doing in Costa Rica right now?
It's a little complicated to say. For comparable security, if you compare it to proof of work, it's like 1/300th to 1/10,000th the amount of power consumption that goes into it. It's a close cousin of proof of work in terms of the security guarantees that it makes. It's truly decentralized. It's not like proof of stake, which is kind of a obfuscatedly centralized system. It's actually truly decentralized. The people running it today could all disappear. New ones could come on. It would chug along just fine. Anyone can join. You could do it using your own computer. There are two good reasons for doing this kind of stuff on top of Chia. Number one, Chia is actually a really good programming environment. It's designed to be auditable and reliable from the ground up, based off the UTXO model that Bitcoin has for that kind of security and reliability. The other one, also important but somewhat orthogonal, is the greenness of our chain. It would be ridiculous to have a project that's all about improving climate in the world and put it on a blockchain where all your transaction fees are directly going into causing pollution. That's not something you want to have happen.
So specifically,
go ahead.
Yeah, specifically with Costa Rica. So how does Chia make it a better system to use than you would find elsewhere? What are your competitive advantages as to why you should be why you are working with Costa Rica?
Well, they like us because of our greenness, but we have a number of very cool features for this kind of thing that are coming up. Like when you have a third-party database that's getting reported, there's some trusted entity that's saying, here's what's going on, and there are other entities that are auditing it. We're building a platform which makes it possible for others to transact on this, that I can offer you money saying, hey, if you make this happen in the database, you can collect these funds, and you don't have to trust me. I don't have to trust you. It's just that we both have to very lightly trust whoever it is that's reporting this information, and we can directly transact off of what's getting reported in it.
Bram, you are also the inventor of BitTorrent, I understand.
Yes.
Are you still involved with BitTorrent?
No. I completely left that. Yeah, a few years ago.
How did that? Were there any ways in which that experience informed what you're doing now?
Well, it's a related skill set that this is all network protocol engineering, and waited a few years to get involved in cryptocurrencies, although the community was kind of expecting me. They figured I'd show up sooner or later.
So now you mentioned you're working with other countries. Which other countries? And are you building this out for Costa Rica first, and then using it as kind of like a proof of concept to launch elsewhere?
Well, we're not announcing any specifics of other places just yet. We did have another announcement about carbon stuff the other day. What we're building right now is a general purpose platform for doing this kind of stuff. So in terms of our own internal development, we're building a general purpose like thing to report key value stores on chain and allow other people to transact based on those. And I'm in charge of product and architecture, not biz dev. So my focus is very much on how do we build real value here? How do we make a general purpose thing that can be used for lots of stuff?
I mean, did you send anybody out to Glasgow in recent days to talk to other countries?
Yeah, we have several people who are out there right now.
Any particular people that, or let's just say any countries that seem to be. Well, you said you're not naming names, but I mean, are there any that you could at least name to say that they're more interested than most?
Well, the problem with these things is if you announce too early, they get mad at you. So
fair enough. Well, what kind of characteristics? So why Costa Rica to start off with, and what kind of other countries do you see, would want to seize on opportunities like this?
Well, Costa Rica takes this kind of stuff very seriously and has a lot of climate resources and is just forward thinking about these things. So they've moved first.
All right. Well, Bram, thanks for joining us. A very cool project you have going on, and we look forward to seeing what other countries you end up entering as well. All right. That was Chia Network co-founder Bram Cohen. Coming up, we'll check in on Asia and the crypto markets update with Venuto, Michael Venuto, Toroso Investments. Now for the daily forecast, an update on what's happening in the Asia crypto markets. Here's Megha Chadha of Forecast News.
Welcome to the daily forecast, November 12th, 2021. I'm Megha Chadha of Forecast News, covering all things blockchain, filling in for Editor-in-Chief Angie Lau. Russia, which is the world's third largest crypto mining country by share of global hash rate, is looking to legalize the industry. We'll take a look at what that could mean for the government's tax coffers and a whole lot more coming up. Let's get you up to speed from Asia to the world. Let's kick off with some of the top stories out of Asia today. First up, China's Double 11 or Singles Day not only celebrates those who are single, but it's also the country's biggest shopping festival, bigger than Black Friday or Cyber Monday in the US. And this year saw the first time payments could be made using the eCNY. Retail giant JD.com said more than 100,000 shoppers placed over 240,000 orders using it. And in South Korea, a third crypto exchange has gained its official license. CoinOne follows Upbit and Corbit. That leaves Bithumb as the only exchange out of the big four in the country that has submitted its full compliance report to the authorities but has not been registered. You can find more on those stories at focus.news. Over in Russia, the government is looking to legalize the crypto mining industry. Parliamentarian Andrei Lugove proposed the creation of a working group to discuss the issue after saying that miners are not paying any taxes on their earnings, which he put at a massive $2 billion per year. Forecast News' Timmy Shen reports.
The first deputy chairman of Russia's Committee on Security and Anti-Corruption said the miners are making that $2 billion at the expense of Russia's people, and that without regulation in place, law enforcement agencies struggle to establish whether any crimes are being committed. While Lugavoy also said he has regulation ready to address these issues, it is not clear as yet when it will be introduced to the Duma, Russia's parliament. The country was a beneficiary of the exodus of miners from China after the clampdown there, with Russia's plentiful electricity and cold climate both being promoted as attractions for those looking to make a move. According to data from the Cambridge Center for Alternative Finance, as of August, Russia was the third largest mining center in the world, after the US and Kazakhstan. For Forecast News, I'm Timmy Shan.
Meanwhile, in South Korea, a major contender for the upcoming presidential election is going all out on crypto. Among ruling Democratic Party candidate Lee Jae-myung's suggestions is a policy to distribute real estate profits to every Korean citizen equally using cryptocurrencies. However, a representative from the opposing Conservative Party compared Lee's plan to that of a scam coin. Can Lee's crypto campaign actually live up to its grand visions? Forecast News' Danny Park has more.
Lee Jae-myung recently met with younger Koreans who either work in or have made investments in cryptocurrencies. This is when he revealed his two birds with one stone plan for claiming unearned income from real estate and promoting the virtual asset industry. Lee proposed setting up a blockchain-based profit-sharing system where profit from large-scale housing developments would be redistributed to the entire nation in virtual assets. He said that once citizens start trading with the tokens they receive, the project will form a virtual asset market of its own. Furthermore, if the token becomes a mode of transaction, Lee said it could work as currency. However, Lee Jun-suk, leader of the Conservative People Power Party, openly condemned the presidential candidate's plan on Facebook, saying his token may disrupt the order of the crypto market or even the whole country. So, can Lee Jae-myung's idea actually be accomplished?
이겠고 여야 간의 다툼이 좀 있을 거고 국민들도 20, 30대는 좋아하겠지만 40, 50대는 우리가 교환 가치라든지 사용의 불편함이 있어서 좀 있을 것이다. 결론적으로 이재명 후보는 20대와 30대의 표를 얻거나 지지를 얻는 데는 도움이 되었다. 이렇게 볼 수 있죠.
Lee Jae-myung also said the current ban on initial coin offerings has caused an outflow of national wealth, while he reiterated that the tax on profits from virtual assets, due to be implemented in January, should be delayed 1 year. For Forecast News, I'm Danny Park.
And that's the daily forecast from our vantage point right here in Asia. For more, visit forecast.news. I'm Megha Chadha. Until next time.
The Crypto Markets Update is presented by Grayscale, the world's largest digital currency asset manager.
Checking out on Bitcoin, the CoinDesk Bitcoin price XVX index currently trading at $63,934. Bitcoin is down about 1% over the past 24 hours, and the CoinDesk Ether price ETX index is at $4,605. ETH is sliding about 2.2%. And the new DFX CoinDesk's DeFi index is down about 3.6%, trading at about 614 points. Joining us now to discuss the crypto markets is Michael Venuto, Chief Investment Officer at Toroso Investments. Hello there, Michael. Welcome to the show. So there's been a broad retreat in the crypto markets since the all-time highs reached earlier this week. Where do we go from here?
Higher. I'm just teasing you. Like, Lawrence, every time I come on, I tell you 100K. I'm still there. I think we're going to see it before 2022.
Well, I mean, I could say that's 7 weeks away. But my question to you is this: is that we have institutions. There was a lot of excitement about institutions coming into the market, and then the ETF launched, and there seemed to be some activity, and the price has fallen down now a little bit since the peak. But do you think you will see institutions come back into the market? I mean, obviously you have a high price target there, but do you think it'll be institution driven or will it be retail driven? What's really going to spur it on over the next few weeks, and why?
Yeah, so right now we just had a crazy infrastructure bill passed that made rules and laws that will not really go into effect for another 2 years, and in my opinion, maybe never. But what that did is it made it clear that our government stance is not to ban Bitcoin, not to look at this and say this is the biggest problem. They've come in and said, we got to figure out how to tax it. We've got to figure out how to embrace it, right? China banning Bitcoin was one of the best things it could do, or by banning the mining, because they took free energy or subsidized energy and said, now go figure out how to do this somewhere else where you need renewable energies and things like that. That's created a boom in places like Texas. I just visited a mine in North Carolina. A whole town is being rebuilt around crypto mining. You see what Hut 8's earnings just look like. So the excitement around the infrastructure in crypto in the mining, I think, brings Wall Street to the table and brings that institutional money.
It's interesting that you mentioned the infrastructure bill, because that's generally considered to be, I mean, you're right, it is acknowledging that crypto is going to be here and they have to tax it, but it's also definitely not good for crypto in terms of how it's framed in the infrastructure bill. Yeah, but putting that aside for a moment. So, this past week or so has been a total roller coaster, right? We had, Bitcoin soaring to a new all-time high and then retreating considerably. One of the narratives out there is that, the all-time high was a response to inflation and, consumer price index being up over 6% year over year. And then, it crashed because people had time to digest the inflation report and they were worried about interest rate hikes. And I'm just curious, do you buy into that whole narrative, or do you think it's just sort of a sideshow?
So I think there will be a massive correlation between inflation and the price of cryptocurrencies, right? They're going to be beneficiaries. The problem is inflation is a catch-all phrase, right? So what crypto or Bitcoin specifically, because of its limited supply, is it's a hedge against the decrease in your purchasing power of your dollar, right? That's the thesis. It's not just like it goes up and therefore it's good and that makes it an inflation hedge. No, it's limited supply versus unlimited supply. So I love that traditional finance media is now covering the stuff that you folks cover on a daily basis, because inflation's here, it's not transitory. Bitcoin's here, it's not transitory. The government's now acknowledging it, and institutions have now lost their one last fear point, which is the government going to ban it? No, they're going to tax it.
Do you think that maybe some of the rise we're seeing in the alts right now, obviously everyone's saying, well, people are looking for the next Ethereum killer, or they're looking for the platforms, but could it really be that people are actually using the alts as the ultimate inflation hedge rather than Bitcoin and even ETH? In other words, they're saying, look, yeah, I could probably double my money in Bitcoin over the next several months to deal with inflation issues, or I can buy some coin with an animal like a dog or something like that, for instance, which maybe will quadruple, quintuple, and then some. And let me place my bets there to deal with in my inflation worries at home. So have the alts taken some of the wind out of the sails of Bitcoin?
No, the alts are exciting because they can move a lot. Their alts are, for most people, about speculation. And what I tell people is, if you go into the alts, it's not speculation, it's buy and learn, right? There's a lot of things that are going to be great about these altcoins. The infrastructure's not there yet, right? We're at the same use of cryptocurrency level that we were at the internet in 1998. And there's going to be a lot of pets.coms out there. And a lot of them are going to be rebirthed as Chewy.com 20 years later when the infrastructure's there. So if you're going to go into if you prefer dogs on your money instead of presidents, learn about it. That's it.
Michael, what kind of alts are you interested in?
I find Axie really exciting. I just think it's amazing that they've created their own ecosystem. I was listening to your previous segment about what's going on in Korea, and it reminded me of how Axie has built its own ecosystem. For us, in our ETF and block, where we get our exposure to alts through things like Voyager and various different entities that mine different coins. Like I've been to many of these mines where it's not just, usually the mines are 90% Bitcoin, and then there's a rack of servers in the back that have Dash or Dogecoin or Litecoin and the merge mining and things like that.
Hey, so Michael, you mentioned Voyager and some of the miners. So let's say somebody wants to play the equity market with crypto exposure. What do you think are their best bets right now over the next few months?
Yeah, so in Block right now, we have about 25% in the miners. Our top positions in that space would be Hut 8. They just had some amazing numbers. And they're really good at dealing with the capital markets. And that's a really hard part about crypto mining is keeping yourself flush with traditional fiat to pay to get the new machines when you need them. Hive's also really interesting because you get the Ethereum mining and Frank's work in that space. Riot, Mara, those are some of the tops. One thing that we did really interesting recently is Block participated in an IPO for Stronghold Digital, which is basically an environmental cleanup company that is getting rid of burning waste coal that's been there for 80 years polluting the environment. And because of the use of the energy created by cleaning up that coal, they're able to make themselves profitable by turning it into Bitcoin, by essentially digitizing that excess energy from the cleanup. I never thought a company like that would exist. What a change in narrative, right? We went from bad energy consumption in China to now cleaning up bad coal and turning it into digitized energy or code in the form of Bitcoin.
Do you expect to see more correlation between Bitcoin and the stock market?
Wow. I don't know how to answer that one. I guess it depends on the Fed, right? If the stock market's only correlated to what Jay Powell does today, and if he stays there and continues to be dovish, yeah, they'll probably correlate. I think the question is more about the Fed than Bitcoin to the markets, though.
So, do you think we'll see? You think you'll see a renomination of Powell, or do you think Biden's just going to throw him to the side there?
I'm hearing a lot from people I know in finance that say they think that it's a good chance he's out, but I don't see how it's possible to make that happen this quickly. And I don't know what the political motivation would be. And the reality is whoever else they put in there is still going to do the same thing, right? We are a money printing country at the moment, and I'm glad to have an alternative to the US dollar in the form of Bitcoin.
An alternative to the US dollar. Do you ever think that Bitcoin could be the reserve currency that would replace the US dollar?
I think it will make the need for a reserve currency unnecessary. It gives us the ability to be free outside the financial system, right? So look, I've been in the ETF industry 25 years. I got interested in crypto and Bitcoin and blockchain because I saw it as a threat to my day job, right? And rather than run from that, I said, how do I get ahead of it and start to learn about the companies here, create access points for investors in traditional finance, and then embrace the technologies, because in 5 or 10 years, people aren't going to be trading ETFs. They're going to be trading BTFs or tokens themselves, BTFs and blockchain traded funds.
Yeah, well, you're not alone. Stanley Druckenmiller just days ago also believed that Bitcoin cryptocurrencies could replace the US dollar as a global reserve currency. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your insights. That was Toroso Investments CIO, Michael Venuto. Time now to check in with Crypto Twitter with our tweet of the day. And this one is coming from Inspired by Iceland, a private Iceland PR firm. And I want to remind you that while the metaverse is really hot right now, the real thing is also pretty awesome. Tweeting, some said an open world experience this immersive wasn't possible, but it's already here and you don't even need silly VR headsets. Introducing Icelandverse. Ever been to Iceland, Emily? Lawrence? Anyone?
I'm not allowed in.
All right, that's it for First News. I highly recommend it. Thank you, Emily Parker and Lawrence Lewitton. I'm your host, Christine Lee. I'll be back live at 3 p.m. with all about Bitcoin. Coming up at noon is The Hash. Y'all have a great weekend. Happy Friday. You're watching CoinDesk TV.